Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we've got a truly fascinating story that bridges the gap between deep evolutionary history and cutting-edge human engineering. We are going to unpack the incredible biological and human-engineered tricks keeping birds alive in the modern world, or, as scientists call it, the Anthropocene. If you've ever wondered how nature's most delicate creatures are adapting to our concrete jungles, well, you are definitely in the right place. Okay, let's just dive right into this staggering figure straight from the source. 3 billion. North America has actually lost nearly 3 billion breeding birds since 1970. This massive decline is driven primarily by the rapid loss of natural habitats and, of course, the relentless expansion of modern urban infrastructure. It's a pretty sobering statistic, and it really sets the stage for everything we're about to look at today. Looking at that 3 billion figure, it kind of forces us to ask this critical question: how does a tiny chickadee survive sub-zero nights, outsmart predators, only to then have to turn around and dodge invisible glass buildings and massive spinning turbines? To answer that, we really need to understand the sheer, mind-blowing resilience of these avian super survivors. So today's explainer is going to follow a clear roadmap. First, evolution's survival tricks. Second, the invisible glass threat. Third, the wind turbine paradox. And finally, simple actions saving birds. Let's start with Section 1, Evolution's Survival Tricks, Biological Resilience. Because before we engineered solutions for birds, they engineered their own. Take golden-crowned kinglets, for example. They practice something called kleptothermy. Basically, to survive freezing nights, they huddle tightly together on a branch, usually in this four-pack configuration, heads facing inward, tails pointing outward. This drastically cuts down the surface area they expose to the cold. But here's the brilliant part. They huddle just close enough to share radiant body heat, but not so tightly that they crush their downy feathers, which they absolutely need to trap insulating dead air. They literally become their own shelter. And they aren't just physically adapting, right? They're actively learning to exploit human infrastructure. In Japan, carrion crows figured out that dropping hard-shelled walnuts onto busy roads to crack them is, well, pretty dangerous. So they systematically mapped our infrastructure. Now they drop the walnuts specifically at pedestrian crosswalks. They wait for the light to turn red, let the cars crush the nuts, and then safely stroll right out alongside human pedestrians to get their food. It is just a stunning display of urban adaptation. But, evolution simply didn't prepare birds for our architecture, which brings us to Section 2, the invisible glass threat, engineering a clear solution. Up to 1 billion birds die annually in the US and Canada alone just because of window collisions. That is up to 10% of the entire continental bird population. And why? Because birds just don't perceive glass as a physical barrier. They see reflections of the sky or nearby trees and try to fly right through, or they're trying to reach interior houseplants that they can see through the transparent panes. So, the crucial point here is, how do we fix this without all having to live in windowless boxes? Well, material scientists are actually exploiting avian biology to do it. See, our human vision is limited to wavelengths above 400 nanometers, so glass looks clear to us. But lots of birds have specialized retinal cones that let them see deep into the ultraviolet range, between 300 and 400 nanometers. By embedding UV reflective patterns right into the glass, scientists have created windows that look like highly visible, solid striped obstacles to birds while staying perfectly transparent to us. And the real-world application of this is incredible. Over at the University of Białystok in Poland, researchers applied a UV reflective film from a company called Birdshades to just 300 square meters of a highly lethal building facade. The result? They documented a staggering 90% decline in bird collisions. It's just a perfect intersection of biology and material science, saving lives. Which leads us directly to our next major infrastructure challenge. Section 3. The wind turbine paradox, green energy's unintended threat. We absolutely need wind energy to fight climate change, right? But hundreds of thousands of birds die from turbine collisions every year. Why do highly agile eagles hit these massive, slow-looking blades? It comes down to a phenomenon called motion smear. The fast-moving tips of the spinning blades move way too rapidly for the temporal resolution of the avian eye to process, so they essentially become transparent to the birds. To an eagle, that spinning hazard right in front of them just looks like clear, open airspace. Okay, so check out this shockingly simple fix they tested in Norway. Researchers at the Smola wind farm had a hypothesis. They thought they could break that visual blur. They literally rappelled down these massive turbines and painted just one of the three blades black. This contrast painting totally disrupts the visual uniformity and creates these alternating dark streaks that alert incoming birds to the hazard, giving them enough time to evade. And the results of this simple paint job? Completely undeniable. After years of monitoring with trained carcass detection dogs, researchers found a 71.9% overall reduction in bird fatalities. But even more amazing than that, before the paint job, they recorded 6 white-tailed eagle deaths. After the paint job, 0. They completely eliminated eagle fatalities at those treated turbines. And this is actually being tested on a massive scale in Wyoming right now to verify the results for North American eagles. And they're innovating at the base of the turbines too. While the black blades help out the high-flying eagles, energy companies like Iberdrola are using a clever trick adapted from French airports to protect low-flying raptors. They apply these huge, 1-meter-wide vinyl decals of staring, concentric eyes right to the white bases of the towers. It triggers the innate, hardwired avoidance reflexes of birds of prey, essentially mimicking a larger predator's gaze and keeping them safely away from the mechanical zones. So, industrial solutions are amazing, but survival also comes down to our individual choices. That brings us to Section 4, Simple Actions Saving Birds, What You Can Do. Brace yourselves for this number, 2.4 billion. That is the estimated number of birds killed annually in North America by free-roaming domestic and feral cats. Aside from habitat loss, our pets are literally the #1 human-caused reason for the loss of birds. But hey, there's good news. The Cornell Lab of Ornithology actually outlines 7 simple lifestyle interventions that are incredibly effective. Keep your cats indoors or maybe build them a catio. Treat your home windows with screens or decals using the 2x4 rule. That's spacing markers 2 inches apart horizontally or 4 inches vertically. Plant native vegetation instead of those sterile grass lawns. Drink shade-grown coffee to protect tropical wintering habitats. Avoid pesticides, use less plastic, and log your local birds on the eBird app to help scientists track populations. These are actionable things you can literally start doing today. On the macro scale, though, it really comes down to maintaining clear legal and financial penalties. That's the single most effective driver for corporate adoption. Enforcing laws like the Migratory Bird Treaty Act ensures that corporations actually have a financial incentive to implement the bird-safe technologies we talked about, like the painted blades and UV glass. Good policy safeguards good science. I'm going to leave you with this final provocative thought for today's explainer. We've seen how brilliant scientific minds are re-engineering the industrial world to create a safer Anthropocene for birds. But ultimately, their survival also depends on us. As we engineer these multi-million-dollar solutions for skyscrapers and wind farms, what small change will you commit to making in your own backyard today? Something to think about. Thanks for joining me, and keep exploring.